Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Pastor Stephen Klein from the Lake Country Christian Church. Appreciate you. No, it's not from. You're not from the Lake Country Christian Church, are you? You come on up. You are. Well, it's just there was someone else supposed to be here. Yeah, Maybe not.
Pastor Randy.
Yes, that's who was supposed to be here.
I'm the youth pastor.
So you've really got the great job.
Yeah, a whole lot.
After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges. Thank you for being here today.
No problem. Thank you. It's such an honor. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, God, man, we thank you so much for who you are. God, we thank you for the blessing every day to wake up and to serve you. So, Father God, I pray that you would bring wisdom into this place. That, God, you would speak to our hearts. That, God, you would speak to our minds. And that, God, we would do whatever is best for our city and for our nation. God, we thank you. God, we give you all the praise and all the glory and all the honor. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor to Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have 4 items as relates to the agenda today. The first one is under the County Administrator section, item 9A1. This concerns the Attorney Identification Card Policy. We have some backup material for you. I believe we've included that in your red folder. Also, I know that Ms. Wilson has given us some additional information that we've passed out to you this morning. We also sent you the court communication and the policy yesterday for your review. Member Court, also under purchasing, item 9I1. This is RFP number 2015-150. We're going to ask that we hold that for 1 week. Also under purchasing, item 9I3. This is bid 2015-195, which is the sale of recycled paper. There's a revised court communication in your folder this morning as it relates to that particular item. And then finally, also under purchasing, item 9I11. This is the Sandlot Solutions hosting agreement. We're also going to hold that for 1 week. That particular item is tied to the first item under purchasing, and we'll bring them both back together. Also, just a comment, when we get to the briefing section, under the fiscal year 2016 budget issues update, which is item C, we are going to have a discussion with the court this morning as it relates to some of the issues that we talked about in the budget hearings. So we'll do that also. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our special call meeting of August the 17th and our regular meeting of August the 18th.
Move approval of both.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Wynn and Fickus. Motion passes unanimously. Under our proclamations and our resolutions, the first one is a recognition from the Veterans Land Board for Tarrant County Veterans Services. Thank you for being here today. Ken Wallingford, former POW, Vietnam and senior advisor for the Veterans Land Board, and we welcome you here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioners, it's good to be with you again as we were last year. We appreciate your time, and with us, Judge and Commissioners, we have Scott Zacchaeus. He's one of our new regional coordinators for the Veterans Outreach Program. And also joining me is your new, I guess he's been on the job about 4 months, Thomas Belton as your new county service officer. He actually comes closer from Austin because he was in Williamson County before
Right.
he moved up the road, but I know he's doing a good job for you, and he'll continue to do a good job representing the veterans of this county. Commissioner and Judge, as you know, the Veterans Land Board is a state agency. We provide low interest rate loans to Texas veterans for land, housing, and home improvement loans. Texas is the second largest veteran populated state at 1.67 million veterans. And Texas, I can honestly say, because I've been around a long time, has the best benefit programs bar any state in the country. And so we're very appreciative of that. It goes back to the days of Sam Houston when the Land Board was created. We work very closely with another state agency, the Texas Veterans Commission, which is the state advocacy agency to help veterans, dependents, widows, filing claims for disability and pension, educational, jobs, things like that. So we're proud of the work we do, and we wanted to come here again, Judge, and recognize not only your leadership and support of the Commissioners Court, but also the Veteran Service Officer for the great job you guys are doing. And if I may, I'd like to read the proclamation. Then, Judge, I'll ask you to come down in a few minutes and present this to you and maybe take a little photograph and so forth. But the State of Texas Veterans Land Board, to all whom these presents shall come, greetings. Know you that Tarrant County Commissioners Court and Tarrant County Veterans Service Office are recognized for their continued support in promoting the Texas veterans land, housing, and loan programs. In fiscal year 2014, $14,082,400 in land and housing home improvement loans were made. Now, you realize, too, that your budget is all based on county revenue. So the purpose of, promoting these programs and encouraging people, every time a home sells, land is sold, that increases the tax base, increases the revenue. So we know it's a great partnership and a great motivation working with the counties and encouraging their continued support on that. In testimony thereof, I have signed my name and caused the seal of the Veterans Land Board to be affixed to the City of Austin the 25th day of August, 2015, signed by new Land Commissioner George P. Bush, Chairman. And Judge, if you would come down, sir, I'd like to present this to you, and also a state flag on behalf of the Veterans Land Board.
Why don't y'all come up here and we'll
Okay.
get a picture with the entire court,
That'd be fantastic.
and that way everybody can be a part of this. Y'all, come on in here.
I'm not going to hold this, Judge.
I'll get in trouble. You come on in here. Yeah, tell you what, if you'll hand that phone over, she'll take care of getting it, you get up here in the picture.
Is it locked? I'm right in here.
And yours may not come out as good as.
Could everybody shift down just a little bit? Just, yeah. Thank you.
Did you want to get in this picture?
No, sir.
Okay, just check. That's pretty good.
He's doing good.
Looks to me like he eliminated JD over here.
Good, one more right there.
Thank y'all very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, I think so. Again, thank you very much for coming down, or coming up this way. We appreciate it, and we do try to take very seriously our service to the veterans here in Tarrant County. I know that a couple of our departments have got Veterans First. We've made arrangements to put them first in line for services and different things like that the county has to offer. So our elected officials take that very seriously.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. And to that same end, one of the next thing I'm going to do is to recognize Judge Carr and his staff for their selection of the Veterans Court Diversion Program of the Year by the state of Texas. I don't see Judge Carr. Are there folks from his court that are here today? Y'all, there they are. Wow. And I think, Tom, why don't you, I think you have some words in this presentation.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners, Your Honor. I love coming here, and I love speaking great about the organizations that support our veterans and keep our veterans safe and sound. I'd like to just go ahead. Judge Carr, as you mentioned, is not here today. I'd like to introduce, if you mind just coming up here behind me, folks, if you could. We'll try to squeeze it all in. You all deserve recognition. Mr. Courtney Young, and Mr. Robert Montgomery, and if I ruin your name, I apologize. Sylvia Donanias, Letitia Gatton, Leon Reed, Lloyd Welshell, Kamisha Ogini, Michael Killian, Scott Smith, LeJean McDonald, and William Rivera Vasquez. Judge, it takes a great organization to help out veterans. Without Judge Carr and his amazing staff, they've helped over, I believe the number was 159 applicants into this veterans program and have graduated 112 for a success rate of 87%, and that's from 2010. And that just shows that we're taking care of our veterans with mental health disabilities that get into a little bit of trouble with the law, nothing too serious. And these great folks here behind me are the ones that are meeting with these folks, getting them into treatment programs, making sure that they're in the year-long program to ensure that they're on the right track to possibly getting the charges expunged and making sure that they are 100% ready to get back into society with the right tools to be successful in life. And I just wanted to give everybody a round of applause and the recognition that they deserve, Judge.
Thank you all very much.
Let's get a quick picture of y'all. All run there. I'll pull that podium away. Dan, you'll lead us.
This is really no small feat. We appreciate very, very much all of the work that y'all have done for our veterans and in service to them. So we appreciate it very, very much.
Get in there with it. Okay, so everybody's going to have to move in just a little bit, okay? And don't
Y'all come
squat
over.
down. Thank you.
If I could, please have a motion to receive and file not only the recognition of the Veterans Land Board, but also of Judge Carr and his staff's.
So move.
Second.
A motion second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have a resolution.
I have a resolution for two attorneys from Buenos Aires. If you would read that into the record, please.
See, they know what you just did. It did not go unnoticed.
Let's go.
Whereas Argentinians Irene Molinari and Maria Serrano, who have been attorneys since 1991 and 92 respectively, are public prosecutors for the Criminal District Attorney's Office for the province of Buenos Aires, and whereas in the summer of 2014, Ms. Molinari and Ms. Serrano visited Fort Worth to attend the annual meeting of the Latin chapter of the International Association of Auto Theft Investigators, and whereas because That visit inspired an interest in learning more about the American criminal justice system. Irene and Maria initiated a relationship with staff of the Tarrant County Criminal District Attorney's Office. And whereas through this relationship, an opportunity was cultivated for them to return to Fort Worth this year to personally witness the operations of the Tarrant County justice system and the cultural offerings of the city of Fort Worth. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby serve today as ambassadors, welcoming our international guests on behalf of the citizens of the county. And further, we offer our appreciation for the commitment shown by Ms. Molinari and Ms. Serrano in the global criminal justice community. In witness whereof we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 25th day of August 2015.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And if I could ask Irene and Maria to meet me down at the podium, please.
And I understand yesterday y'all went and observed an autopsy at the medical examiner's office.
That's correct. My name is Alfredo Valverde. I've been assisting them in the translation. And but we did go to the medical examiner's office, and they had a great time.
Better them than me.
Any comments y'all would like to make?
Si quieren, sí, como- I'm going to translate for Irene.
Quiero agradecer muy profundamente a los miembros aquí presentes
She would like to thank, and she is very appreciative of the members here present today
por este reconocimiento tan importante
for this recognition that's very important.
y quiero agradecer muy profundamente a la señora fiscal general Sharon Wilson.
She would like to profoundly thank our criminal district attorney, Sharon Wilson,
que nos ha dado esta tan importante oportunidad de hacer posible esta pasantía en Tarrant County.
to have given them this opportunity here in Tarrant County.
A Alfredo Valverde aquí presente, que hoy ya puedo considerar un amigo.
And that she also appreciates me and considers me as a friend.
A Irene Chase, que ha trabajado tan esforzadamente por hacer posible nuestra estadía.
And Irene Chase who works for the Fort Worth Convention Center, by the way, would like to thank her as well.
A todas las personas que han aportado sus conocimientos y han puesto su tiempo a nuestra disposición para que podamos capacitarnos.
And would like to thank all those persons that were responsible in helping them and assisting them in making this possible.
Y a todos los ciudadanos de Fort Worth que en este tiempo nos han demostrado su calidez y su amabilidad y realmente nos han hecho sentir como en nuestra casa. Muchas gracias.
And she says that she also would like to thank the citizens of the county and of Fort Worth that they've been very hospitable and have made it comfortable enough that they feel like they're at their own home.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please thank them for taking their time to come and have an opportunity to exchange information.
Quiere él también que le demos gracias a ustedes por venir y por tenernos la oportunidad de comunicarse con las distintas tratos que tenemos nosotros. Sí.
Sí.
I think this type of exchange helps both parties to understand better
Yes.
the way things are done in our respective countries.
Yes.
Es algo que nos beneficia para los dos.
Para los dos países.
Comunicarnos en los
Muchas
países.
gracias. Muchas
Gracias.
Very good.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
like to get a picture. Sure.
Yes, por favor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
just a couple of more things. One, Natalie from my office is celebrating her birthday today. I didn't necessarily tell them to put the 50th up there, but it is up there, so everybody. Yeah, So again, congratulations, and y'all all wish Natalie a happy birthday. We're not singing, so that goes without saying. And then the other thing, Commissioner Wynn and I discussed, Councilwoman Catherine Wildman's husband, Zeke, passed away this past weekend, and we would like to close the court today in memory of Zeke Wildman. So we'll do that. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Good morning, members of the court.
Good morning.
If we can go to item number 1 under the County Administrator section. This is a requested action by the Commissioners Court concerning the Tarrant County Attorney Identification Card Program to grant attorneys access to the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center. I have included in your backup material a proposed agreement and policy. Let me just basically lay some of the background on this. First of all, the Commissioners Court is authorized to create such a identification card through the Local Government Code, Section 291.010. Additionally, the Commissioners Court, or actually the Sheriff's Department, is authorized to enforce this policy based on statutory authority, subject to the regulations of the Commissioners Court. So what that means basically is that the Commissioners Court has the authority to approve a identification card which will allow attorneys that meet certain qualifications to bypass the security and to enter the building without them first having to go through the scanners. Now, what we did on this particular policy, and Ms. Wilson has provided guidance and also has taken the initiative to do this. Let me just go over a few items on this particular policy. First of all, the attorneys that are allowed to go through, they have to be in good standing with the State Bar, and whose primary office, as reflected on the bar site, is located in Tarrant County, and who regularly utilizes designated county buildings as a function of the criminal justice system. When we talk about buildings, this includes and refers only to the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center. Several other things. There will be an application by which the attorneys can apply for this. That application will be submitted to the Sheriff's Department, who will complete a comprehensive background investigation, including case listings to check for litigant status and verify the applicant is an attorney in good standing with the State Bar and that their primary office is in Tarrant County. Whenever there is any changes to that application itself, the attorney is required to immediately notify the Sheriff's Department as it relates to that particular change. Also, the application and the background investigation results should be considered public documents to the extent allowed by law and accessible through the Open Records Act. Under the passage of security, something just to simply point out that obviously the attorneys will have to wear the ID card. They will also have to. This extends only to the attorney's case materials, in which those materials are under the direct control of the attorney. So what that means is that if an attorney brings somewhat of an entourage that has additional material, that they will have to go, that group would have to go through the screening process unless they also are attorneys that have an ID badge. Obviously, the ID badge cannot be extended or given to any other employees. to be utilized, and if they are, then the ID badge is immediately confiscated. It also gives some flexibility with the Sheriff's Department because the Sheriff's Department is really responsible for controlling the security. If there's any issues that as the attorneys go by, if the Sheriff's Department wants them to walk through the security, then they're going to have to do that. And so we believe it's important that we grant that authority to the Sheriff's Department because if there's issues that they may see or they feel that something may not be exactly right, they can go ahead and require that there's additional security process that the attorneys go through. Obviously, any violation of the policy itself or the rules will result in immediate termination of the card privileges, and the attorney will be barred from applying again for a minimum of 2 years, and the Sheriff's Department will notify the County Administrator's Office of any security violations. There is a $75 fee that we will be charging. If the card is lost, then a replacement card will require another $25 fee. These cards will be for a 1-year period starting in January. So January 1 will be the start of when the card can be utilized, and at the end of that year, then that card needs to be reauthorized through the same process as we just discussed. I know Ms. Wilson is here. Did you want to address the court?
Actually, I think that Tim Evans is prepared to address it.
Very good.
I would add,
You know the drill.
Ms. Wilson has also provided several handouts that I have placed in front of you this morning.
I just want to make sure that you realize that those handouts are the signatures approving this policy from 26 of the 27 judges who office in that court building. Also, the sheriff has worked on it, as well as the additional handout that you have is a comparison of the top 6 counties in Texas population-wise. And I will tell you that of the 5 large urban counties, 3 of them, a majority of them, already have these frequent visitor cards. The idea being that if our security deputies can focus on the people they don't know instead of the ones that they see every day and have known for 20 or 30 years, which are our lawyers, then they'll be able to do a better job of securing the building with the individuals we don't know. And Tim Evans is here and wanted to say a few words also.
Thank you.
Tim, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and then also state your name, your address?
Yes, I'm Tim Evans. I live at 2309 Edwin Street in Fort Worth, Tarrant County, Texas.
Thank you.
House that my grandmother was born in. So I and my family have been around for a pretty good while. But thank you very much. I won't take you any more of your time. I know you have a full agenda this morning. But I also want to thank the sheriff, although he's not here, for his support of this badging program. I have known all of the sheriffs since the 70s, when I first came to the district attorney's office when I was an assistant DA. And I have to say that they're all good, but Dee somehow has taken the bull by the horns and done things that other sheriffs have not thought of doing. And I want to mention that. And I think it's very important that he is behind this badging program. And I can assure you that if he thought there was going to be a problem, he would not be behind it. He's not doing this just to make us happy. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that, you know, I appreciate us all working together here. It's been the Tarrant County way since I've lived here for everybody to work together, and I want to thank you because several of you have been bothered by me about this, and I appreciate you taking the time to consider it. I think these badges will make everyone safer, and I will not repeat what Sharon has just told you, but the major counties do have these badging programs, and it's been successful there. I'm not sure about Dallas. I don't think Dallas has a program at all. When I go over there, we just walk through. I guess they are lucky, but they really they don't have a badging program over there. And then we have had exceptional district attorneys throughout this whole time, and all the ones that I've worked for would have either are or would have been behind this program. We have collegiality here amongst the criminal defense bar and the courthouse and the judges that, quite frankly, is way above anything I've ever seen or been to as I've moved around the state of Texas and have been in courthouses and in litigation in these other places. I mean, I'm not telling anybody in here what you don't already know, but I just think that this that the badging program is something that will work and it will make us safe. And thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
GK, can you share that it is not permissible for anybody, including the attorneys, to carry weapons into the courthouse, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And
This policy talks about the fact that they're not allowed to carry firearms or knives or any type of weaponry. And that's a state law. That is something that neither this court nor any other court can change.
And in the past year or so, how many arrests have been made at the door for weapon? And of those arrests, how many of them were attorneys? Do you know?
Let me ask Chief Ray if he can answer that particular question.
Commissioner, I don't have the number off the top of my head, and I don't know that we've had any in the last year. I'm not sure. I know that we have, in my 6+ years, we have had some, and they have been attorneys. There have been attorneys.
We have had some.
Yes, we've had some. And again, just off the top of my head, I'd have to say the bulk of those were actually from Dallas County that came. And I'm sorry. Could
we just arrest any
and
attorney
the information
that comes from Dallas County?
The information I just heard from Mr. Evans, kind of might explain that. If they're not used to being screened and they don't think about it, and then they come over here, then that might explain it. But I can say that there have been attorneys, and many of them have been from Dallas County.
Okay. So can attorneys from Dallas County apply for this program? No, they can't.
Unless their primary, the plan itself requires the attorney to have their primary office in Tarrant County as reflected on the State Bar website, and to frequently use the building that the Tarrant Temporary Criminal Justice.
So I've got one thing
Yes, sir.
that is easily fixable, and that is that in the event of a lost badge, there's got to be some way to prevent some other person from walking through, flashing the badge, and just going ahead. I know that the security personnel are busy. They just look to see that it looks like a badge. They don't verify who it's issued to and that the picture matches the person using it. You just flash the badge and go on. There's got to be some kind of way in the event of a lost badge to keep someone else from using it.
First of all, if an attorney, let's make an assumption that attorney loses the badge and then applies for another badge. That, at least the sheriff's department will know that there was a lost badge, okay? And they can potentially be on, I don't want to tell the sheriff how to do this business, but you would be, I would think that you would be on alert to make sure that that there was a lost badge, and you would really screen, because you know who the attorney is. Second, but the other issue is if someone actually takes the badge and the attorney doesn't report it, then we'll need to work with the sheriff's department and see how we can handle something like that. And Chief, I didn't mean to speak for you.
That answers the question.
Yes, that's a good question.
I'm not sure it does answer the question.
Well, I mean, one of the things that you might do would be to visibly on the card, put the name, the first name, the last name, or something, so that it'd be big enough and it'd actually be large enough that, you know, when they flash the card, it has to visibly show the name. So if Tim's coming in and it says Jenny, then that's probably not Tim. Or if it's Jenny and it says Tim, somebody's going to recognize that ain't Tim.
I think we can structure the ID cards that way. I mean, our ID cards, just like your ID cards, have the photograph.
I think it's fixable, but it's not fixable that nobody's focusing on it.
Okay.
I just want to stress that as we do this, all it takes is one bad apple. All it takes. So down to the details, we have to be very focused and extremely proactive. It's the little things that will basically come around bite us. It's not the big things. You know, the incident that Commissioner Brooks talked about, a lost badge, how would you know if that lost or stolen badge is not being used by another attorney? So, I mean, those are the things that really concern me. Just one little incident, and that's where I really don't know how the sheriff department is going to make sure that one incident in which an attorney who brought in a weapon forgot that there was a weapon in his briefcase or her briefcase, go into the courthouse, stood up addressing the judge, and then his client seized control of the weapon. You know, scenarios like that is far-fetched, but I mean, it's something that we have to be very attentive to. I don't know, have the sheriff thought about those scenarios and come up with ways to manage those scenarios?
Well, for one, these cards are going to be unlike our employee ID cards, so that they will stand out. The way we understand it, there's going to be very few of these that are actually going to be produced. And so there will be, over time, of course, during the initial startup, there's going to be, oh, here we go. It's completely different from anything that we're using. So obviously, during the initial startup, we're going to be paying we're going to be hypersensitive to this issue. However, just like with a lot of our employees, we get to know them and we recognize them, and the same will be the case here. If one of these pops through and it's with a face that we don't recognize ever having seen come through the door, then we'll definitely be on top of that. So there are some steps being taken to help ensure our safety and security.
Thank you.
And the ultimate piece of security is that we can cancel this policy anytime it's proven not to work.
Well, and I would also add that, again, the way this policy is set, in order to get a card, one, the sheriff and his folks have to be comfortable with the individual, and all of the judges have to be comfortable. Any individual, the sheriff's department, any individual judge can say, for whatever reason, I'm crossing this person off the application. That's not something that's going to be published, so nobody's going to know who crossed their name off the list, and it's not going to be debatable. There's no appeal. If somebody's name is crossed off the list, that's it. This is not an appealable deal.
Now, I wish you hadn't said that.
Well,
because that gives me a tremendous amount of heartburn that any judge, for any reason, can cross somebody's name off the list. I came up during an era where that was done for all sorts of reasons or for no reasons, and that just makes me nervous.
Other questions?
This is for the Tim Curry Criminal Courts building only,
Yes, sir.
none of the other courts.
That's correct.
And all the judges, they are supportive of this policy. And the criminal district attorney.
We got a
and the
list
sheriff.
of them here.
One has abstained.
One's abstained. 26 of the 27 judges. I am in favor of it, and I will tell you why. This summer, the courts had interns assigned to their courts who attend law school or other schools, and every one of them was given an access card. And those interns that we don't know anything about walked in past lawyers that we've known for 30 years, and it's not right. This is the right thing to do. It's time to do it. In a county as large as ours, there's a reason that the large urban counties do this. It's impossible with the number of people that come into the Tim Curry building on any given day for court settings. And, you know, there are hundreds, I would say thousands on a Monday, and the lawyers are standing in line with them. I talked to John Casey last week. You remember him, former Chief Justice of the Court of Appeals. He had to go through 3 times to get in the building. There was no change in John Casey, except one day he's the Chief Justice of the Court of Appeals, and the next day he's a private practice attorney, and so we don't trust him. That is not right. My request, yes, I support it, and that's why I support it. Thank you.
Would you address the issue of any judge being able to scratch off a name and no appeal and no questions asked?
You will see in that policy that this policy and the applications are subject to open records, and I dare say that there's not going to be a lot of that going on, because open records is going to allow someone to access some of this information as allowed by law.
Well, the judge just said that no one would know that somebody scratched the name off. No one would know who scratched it off. That doesn't sound like open records.
If you'll look at the policy before you, I will tell you, I don't have it in
Does it
front
have
of
to
me.
indicate who scratched their name off? I mean, I don't have a problem with that, because if somebody has an individual who, for whatever reason, they don't feel comfortable in being able to walk into the courthouse without being screened,
Then they ought to stand up and say, well, yeah, I did it.
well, we disagree with that, on that. I disagree. I mean, I'm not saying we in anything other than you and I disagree on that.
And there ought to be some appeal process.
Again, I think, and from a part of the reason why I just felt, that way, if anybody feels uncomfortable, it's not an appeal. I just don't feel comfortable with that person coming through or having the ability to come through. And I understand where you're coming from. I just don't necessarily agree with that in this particular instance.
You just don't think somebody would do it.
Well, I would hope that they wouldn't. And I would hope that if they did, that their brethren might have a conversation with them.
Well, since the sheriff is responsible for the security of the courthouse, the court building, would it make sense if the sheriff agree with the judge to take a name off the list? I mean, if we have consensus there between the judge and the sheriff, then it would be reasonable to remove that name.
Well, and built into the policy is the sheriff's ability to take a card away from anybody at any time. He is in charge of the security of that building, and if something goes, if someone's acting inappropriately or there's something that goes on that he finds out about, then he has the authority to take somebody off the plan, to take their card. And that's as it should be. Because he's in charge of the security, he's the guy, his office, or the people who are there making sure day to day that we're safe.
That would make sense.
I'll move approval of the policy.
I'll second, subject to all the objections I've raised. And look to you, Sharon, to be vigilant.
We have a motion and a second. As I'm looking through this, I guess what I see, if I see what you've got written down, Mr. Manius, the judges are mentioned nowhere in this policy.
The judges make a reference to the sheriff, and the sheriff is the one who will actually withdraw that.
But that's not called for in here, does it?
It is not in this particular policy, no, but it's something that had been discussed, and the judges are in agreement with it. The sheriff's department is in agreement with it also.
But it's not in the policy.
No, it's not.
Should we include it in the policy?
No. I stand by the policy as written.
That's the motion, right?
Right.
As written.
I would like to point out one thing, and Jay just mentioned it. If you look on page 4, item K at the top, any court personnel may notify security personnel of any concerns that they may have regarding an attorney being permitted access. And
Okay.
And then, but here it says, the sheriff's office may exercise any appropriate actions.
Okay. So that is what I was looking for. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, we can go to item number 2. We're requesting that the court approve the 2015 holiday season meeting schedule of the Commissioners Court.
Move for approval of the holiday season meeting schedule.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 3, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve and concur with the actions of the Hospital District Board of Managers, approve the purchase and sale agreement between Tarrant County Hospital District and Chesapeake Land Development Company for the purchase of approximately 11.43 acres of land located at 3200 West Euless Boulevard in Euless, Texas.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 4, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve Simplex Grinnell as the sole source for the purchase and installation of the Simplex fire alarm system upgrade at designated locations within the hospital district's JPS hospital. The board has already approved this as a sole source, and they are requesting Commissioners Court approval.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, if we can go to item number 5, we're requesting that the court approve interim funding for the continuation of the Criminal District Attorney's Bilingual Spanish Language Victim Assistance Program for a period not to exceed 90 days. Just a comment on that, we have received, the DA's office has received notification of this, but that fiscal year starts in September, so we want to ensure that there's a continuation until we get all the agreements put in place.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on items 6 and 7, Ms. McMillan is going to do these two particular items.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The first item we have for your approval is a request to approve tax-exempt education revenue bonds to be issued by the Clifton Higher Education Finance Corporation in the maximum principal amount of $165 million to be used by International Leadership of Texas to finance certain educational facilities located in Tarrant County and around the state. International Leadership of Texas is a public charter school with facilities in Arlington, Keller, Grand Prairie, and Garland. IL Texas has provided the letters providing information on restrictions to the property and the use of the county's HUD policy, and the Commissioners Court is being asked to approve this issuance solely for compliance with the IRS code. These bonds will be issued by Clifton Higher Education Finance Corporation.
Where is Clifton?
Somewhere in Texas.
I don't think that's what it's about.
You don't think
I think that's the name of the company. I don't think.
It is. I think it is in Clifton, Texas. So there is a Clifton, Texas. No.
It is.
Oh,
It's
Clifton,
the city
Texas.
of Clifton, Texas.
West of Waco.
I will know by the end of Commissioners Court, Commissioner.
These bonds can't be issued by private companies, can they?
No, it's a
It's got to be
a jurisdiction, kind of a
Jurisdiction.
quasi-jurisdiction
It
set
is
up.
the city of Clifton that organized the Clifton Higher Education Finance Corporation.
It is?
Yes, sir. It says right here in the resolution.
Oh. Well, now, are they utilizing existing campuses?
Yes, they're going to be, I think this is refinancing a lot of improvements that were already done with these bonds to
Is
refinance.
there anybody here representing this organization?
No. Again, we're not issuing the bonds. We just have to do this because those facilities are located in Tarrant County. And Dallas County has been asked to do the same thing, just to approve them because of facilities located in our counties.
move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for both, or just the one?
Oh,
Item 6.
Okay, for both, items 6 and 7.
go through the other one.
Do the other one.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
next item, yes.
Well, we're going to vote on them both at the same time, I think. Excuse me, we're going to vote on just number 6.
6, yeah.
Motion passes. Fickus?
Abstain.
Well then, okay, so go ahead and take the green one off, and then that way
I got it.
okay. We have a 4-to-1 vote with 1 abstention.
Okay.
4-0 vote with 1 abstention.
Thank you. The next item we have for your consideration is regards to an amendment to the participation agreement with the City of Euless for the Euless TIF number 3, the Glade Parks TERS. In January of 2011, the Commissioners Court approved participation with the City of Euless for a 266-acre site that's located along State Highway 21, Glade Road on the north and Cheeksparger on the south. And as originally set up, it was going to fund $12.1 million in public projects, including arterial streets and bridge constructions, roadway access improvements along Highway 121, wetland mitigation, and water sewer drainage improvements. The county is currently participating in funding of the TERS through 75% of its incremental real property tax revenues generated by the term for the first 15 years of the zone, and then we do 50% for the remaining 10 years of the zone. And our deposits began with tax year 2011. The county's participation is limited to the projects that are set forth in the project plan and a maximum contribution of a little over $5.3 million. As most of you have probably seen if you drove north on 121 over the years, the initial development of this TERS was very slow to start. But in this last year, it has ramped up with several major retailers, restaurant, and entertainment venues recently completed or planned to be completed in 2015. In response to the changes of the development plan by the new developer within the zone, the TIF Board and the Euless City Council have approved additional projects and expenses to be paid by the TERS. I'm going to turn it over to Loretta Getchell, the City Manager for Euless, who will give us a little bit more detail on those changes that are planned for the zone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge. Thank you and the Commissioners for allowing us time this morning. I'm Loretta Getchell, the City Manager with the City of Euless, and I have with me our Mayor, Linda Martin, Assistant City Manager Chris Barker, and David Pettit, our consultant. We also first want to thank Lisa and Commissioner Fickus' staff for helping us through this process. They've been most helpful. I'll not try to repeat what Lisa has already indicated there. Here's a map of the TERS that she described. You can see basically the boundaries of this are 121 Glade Road and Cheeksparger. And as she had described, the original TERS was for $12.1 million of expenditures, mostly related to the road network and the water, wastewater, and drainage that was required for this new development. We have seen a lot of grand openings. Dave & Buster's was our first one to open in the spring, and since that time, just in the past, I believe this was August the 11th, that Dick's Sporting Goods has opened, as well as Michael's Home Goods, Kirkland's. We have a Boot Barn and an Ulta. So as you can see, that is all coming along very nicely, and I think Five Below is also in that group. that just opened. Oh, wasn't too far. Our residential is also coming along nicely. We have had 33 home permits issued. This is a 127-lot development that is being done by K. Hovnanian. And so those price ranges of those homes are, I believe, starting around $400,000, so that's been a very nice residential development for Euless as well. So for what our request is that the developer, because of the improved economic conditions, has determined that the Lifestyle Center can support additional retail, restaurants, and entertainment. We originally had contemplated that that might be used more for office space, and in order to do that, it would require a parking garage. There's not enough surface parking to accommodate what is needed. You'll see in the corner, the proposed parking garage would be located just above Dave & Buster's to the west. It would be just to the east of the proposed movie theater, and then you can also see the Belk's department store that's currently under construction. The parking area, that's the parking area. There's also would be a park that would be constructed to provide connectivity from the inline stores, from the movie theater, and from the Dave & Buster into the center. And so they believe that would be vital in order to bring the patrons in from the inline and from the movie theater into the center. What they have requested and what the City Council has recommended is that we approve the additional expenses. It would represent 50% of the total cost. We are asking the developer to pay the remaining 50% of the cost, and those additional costs are estimated at $3,268,910. That's $1.9 million for the parking garage, $1.2 million for the park and the park amenities, and then the bond issuance costs. The City of Euless would issue the bonds and would pay for this, and we're asking to be able to use TERS revenue to help pay for those bonds. While we're asking for $3.2 million in additional project costs, the overall increase would only be $2.2 million. We've been able to issue our bonds at a lesser interest rate, and we've been able to save almost $1 million, so the overall increase is just $2.2 million. And when we originally came to you, the county share of the overall cost was about $25.6 million. We expected that these bonds would be retired early in 2025, and at which point we would terminate the TERS. And if you approve the amendment, your contribution would go to 24.3% of the overall cost, and we estimate this would add about 18 months to the term of the bonds, and now we expect they would liquidate in mid-2027. The overall cash contribution that the county would be asked to participate in would be $286,859.
And that's in addition, go back 2 slides. So, one more. So we originally had committed the 5.3, 5.4 million, and what you're saying is
it would go to the 5.6.
It's going to go to 5.6 million.
Yes, and that would be your cap. That is correct. For the benefit of that $280,000, the expected net benefit overall for the county would also increase from $7.2 million to would increase from $12.1 million to $12.8 million. So there would be an overall increase of a little over $700,000 in net benefit. That is after the contribution that we're requesting. So we're available for any questions that you might have.
I don't have any question, but I just kind of what Lisa had talked about. This was a development that had actually been going on for a long time. And 3 or 4 years ago, we created this and had a little bump, but it is like a ball of fire right now. It is phenomenal, the amount of growth that's taking place on that site and what's happening. And I mean, not just the commercial, which is the most obvious, but all the residential also. So it's a real bright spot for the city and our whole area.
It looks like we're getting good leverage on our 280, whatever it is, $1,000.
Yes.
So I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And
y'all.
thanks to Robin, I do have a report that Clifton is in Bosque County, south of Meridian and north of Waco.
Thank you. Could we take a 5-minute break?
We sure can.
Thank you.
And we may be dark leaving town.
Ms. Tidwell.
I would like to hand something out to the court if I could, please.
So we made some money on our investment?
Very little.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, I don't have an extra one. I'll get you one. What I have on the agenda today is to ask the court to receive and file the investment report. And what I've handed out, the first page is a page from the November 14 financial statements for the county that shows where our money was invested in November, which November is historically our low month. Again, that's the first page there. And what you'll see is because of J.P. Morgan Chase's generous offer that continues to offer us 30 basis points on about the $275 million that we have invested there, that in November we had approximately the $50 million in each of the other pools, because that's our low point. So while we typically have much, much more cash, we only had $287 million in cash invested in November. The other pages are off of the system that we have through multi-bank securities of what the rates are today that we would be able to go out and purchase securities. And at 6 months, which is not on what I handed you out, we can't get more than the 30 basis points. So to get more than 30 basis points, we have to go out well over a year and tie up cash and incur, in my opinion, more risk than putting the $275 million at Chase for the 30 basis points. So on the investment report, the majority of money that we can put there is the $275, and then the rest of the money tends to remain in the pools, and we've still not actively started buying securities. I'm always interested and open to suggestions. The judge asked me some questions this morning, so I prepared this additional information. Chase, I think, sometimes would like for us to have less money with them. We've not put more money there. They've given us this rate now for quite some time, which is, as you can see, still well in excess of what we'd be able to get in the market. And so that's why we choose to use it. The other issues, of course, are associated with when rates are going to go up, exactly how we're going to use our money, and the cash flow schedules that we prepare. And again, we are willing to look at that, but we have taken, again, a conservative approach, but with the 30 basis points on the $275 million. And then, of course, going into November right now, we'd need that money in a few months when we get to our low point before the December collections. So I don't know if that answers your question, Judge.
And I guess my only comment is that the U.S. agency securities that we're purchasing through the multi-bank deal, I mean, first off, I know they pop in only the things that fit into our investment program. They are U.S. agency securities, and they're paying about, it looks to be like 10 to 11 to 12 times. Now, don't get excited. I mean, we're talking about
from 30 to 50
basis points. We're basically talking about 6 or 7 basis points to 77 basis points. So we're not, we're still below 1%. So it's not like it's going to, but it's 10 times what we're getting paid through our pools at Tex Pool and Lone Star. So, and I also know that we have to look very much at, because you said it was a longer period of time.
Right, you have to go out over a year to get those rates.
So you're going out over a year, but we probably at any given point in time have, between our cash on hand, our reserves, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 to maybe 100 million.
Well, that's what we're saying. We put that money at Chase because we keep that about the $275 million at Chase pretty much year-round. And
does the Chase also have to be over a year?
No, it's a savings account. It's like a 30-day notice.
Okay, so basically the stuff, in order for us to be in the U.S. agency securities, we know that money is tied up for a year.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that that's laddered and that it's not all tied up for 1 year. It's something that's kind of spread over.
Well, we only have the one right now. We only have the $10 million currently. If you look at the actual report itself, we have $10 million in an agency as of the end of June.
Okay, so that's the beginning and the
And that
ending
one was,
value, okay.
that was a 2.5-year security, I believe, so that one's still over a year. We still have that money tied up for over a year.
But I guess what I'm saying is, we can get to any of the Chase savings accounts immediately.
The 275, I think they require, like, on some of it, maybe like a 30-day notice, but it's on demand, basically.
And
yes.
all the money at Tex Pool we can get on demand.
Same day, yes, or next day.
And the U.S. agency securities, we only have 10 million, and on, at probably no point in our year do we go below $50 million in cash.
Right. And we put that money, though, going back to this, we put that money at Chase, and then after that, we had $150 million that was in the pools at the low point. So yes, your point is we could put $50 million.
We could put $50 million in these U.S. agency securities.
Right.
Which are yielding us, at least right now, 10 to 11 to 12 times as much as what we're getting out of these pools.
And we'll certainly consider that. The only other thing I need to point out to you is if you look there under the call frequency on that schedule, they all, except for one item there, have a call anytime to quarterly. So based on that, at some point in time, depending on what happened with rates, what's typically happened when they start out offering a nice rate, one that would get you to purchase the security, when rates stay low, many times they're called. And then we wind up not having that investment.
But we probably still get better than the 6 basis points that we would have gotten in the pools.
We could, but then on the other hand, if rates were to go up, they wouldn't be called, and then that money would be locked in for almost 2 years, as noted on that sheet. So, but we'll certainly looking at the reserves, particularly the 50 to 60 million, and whether or not we can ladder some of that out.
Because I'm guessing that with Tex Pool, we have been below that 10 basis point pool return for
a long
several
time.
years.
For a long time, that's correct.
So yes, I understand,
The Chase is what we've used in the Chase is what, if we didn't have the accounts at Chase, we would have to be laddering out much more than we are.
And I'm not suggesting that we change the Chase. I am looking at the fact, though, that we have approximately, looks like about 140 million sitting in the pools, earning less than 7 basis points.
And we could invest some portion of that, again, we would keep.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that we'd ever get
right,
above 50 million in the
agencies.
In the agencies.
Okay.
Because that's what our reserve, that's what we as a court have indicated, and I don't know what everyone else.
It's the not touchable amount, yes.
But we've said that we were going to have a reserve of around 50 million, and so that's something that, short of a major catastrophe, we should always have in there, in that standpoint. And I would suggest that we ladder your decision was to move that in that regard, then I would still suggest that it be laddered and that it not all be.
Right, we would not probably go longer than 2.5 years. We're not going to go out. 5 years is an eternity in today's world to me, so we're not looking for anything that's particularly long-term.
Any other questions or comments of Ms. Tidwell at this time?
I move to receive and file the quarterly investment report.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Sugar.
I'm here, sir. The criminal courts are requesting to approve interim funding for the Veterans Court and the Mental Health Diversions Court until the grants come in, not to exceed 60 days.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
I move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Receive and file personnel agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. You got at least 10 steps in there. Come on down, Vinny.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court. Public Health requesting approval of interim financing for FY 2016 grants, Ryan White Part B, HIV/AIDS surveillance, STD/HIV prevention, TB prevention and control, and refugee, foodborne surveillance, nurse-family partnership, and Biosense. My understanding is that all of these grant contracts are underway, so we should have them shortly, but we do need interim financing approval to pay salaries and payroll expenses.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Jack? Good morning.
Good morning. We have 3 items for your consideration this morning. Item number 2 for us is a bid award recommendation for bid 2015-158, annual contract for temporary general labor for our facilities management department. Recommendation be to award on a per unit price basis, awarding to the primary, secondary, alternate 1 and 2 vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2015-195, sale of recycled paper. Recommendation be to award to the high bidder, Evergreen Fiber Sales, on a per unit price basis. They will be paying us for sorted office paper $155 a ton, and for ledger paper $255 a ton.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our last item, number 4, is an item in regards to bid 2015-160. This was a bid for the purchase of additional on-base licenses and services for existing on-base systems. We received one particular bid on this 2015-160. In the early evaluation portion, it was determined that there were some flaws in the specifications, and IT recommended that we reject all bids and we be allowed to rebid with revised specifications.
Move.
Second.
Y'all figure it out. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Reject all bid.
Are there, let's see, Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
I do, Your Honor. Item 9M1, A and B, I'll move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Are there any appointments? There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Magnus.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have 3 items to bring to you this morning. First one is the briefing on the 911 Emergency Assistance District budget. Mr. Petrie is here to address the Court at this time.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Your Honor, Commissioner, Mr. Magnus, and staff, thank you very much for the opportunity to brief the Court this morning concerning our FY 2016 budget. Judge, you made a comment the other night at Mayor's Council about how time flies. This will be my 10th presentation to the Commissioner's Court, and I very much appreciate that. Since the first call was answered on August 2nd, 1987, over 50 million 911 calls have been processed through the system, and we've never raised our fee. The district was created in 1984 for the express purpose of providing 911 equipment and services to police, fire, and EMS departments in Tarrant County and later including Irving and DFW Airport. As I mentioned earlier, in 1987, the first 911 call was answered and service was implemented throughout the county. As defined by our legislation, a 7-member appointed board of managers governs the district, and 1 non-voting member represents the major service supplier, AT&T. The 2016 budget has been fashioned to support the district's forward movement in a number of areas. Continued emphasis on increasing wireless 911 call reliability through continued wireless accuracy testing of new wireless devices and services, and expansion of our wireless one-on-one training that we call Where's Waldo. Continued efforts to assist in reducing personnel costs within our member PSAPs by providing testing and training through our training program. And then planned progress towards next generation 911 with our interaction with our user base, proof of concept projects, and our newly implemented IP-enabled network. And a continued focus on continuity and contingency operations by building out our relocation sites throughout the district, and providing power support within each of our PSAPs. This is a general map of the district. It's a little bit hard to see. Our district contains all of Tarrant County and portions of 6 other counties. A few facts about the district. We have 46 public safety answering points, or PSAPs as I call them. 41 member entities support the district. Population of 2.3 million throughout the district, 1,100 square miles, slightly less than 1 million wireline database records, and an estimated 1.8 million wireless devices, who I believe all called yesterday the first day of school. In 2014, there were 2.1 million 911 calls answered throughout the district. 92% of those were wireless, and in June of this year, 83.9% of those were from wireless devices.
Does it surprise you that it was down that much? Because didn't you say 92 to 83? Or did I miss?
Did I misspeak? I'm sorry. 82% of the calls last year were from wireless devices, and in June there were 83%.
Okay.
I apologize, sir. Thank you for catching that. Overall, the district's expenditures have decreased nearly 3% this coming fiscal year. Next generation projects are included the IP-enabled network and the next year of our planned 3-year replacement of all 911 equipment. An expanded training program, including some new state-mandated training and assistance in pre-hire testing that I've already mentioned. We have included a 4% merit pool in the budget. However, it appears that they'll be trending somewhere towards 3%. The board will make a final determination of that in September. Let's see, I'm sorry. Once again, the $3 million has been earmarked for the PSAP and P25 radio assistance programs, which the county participates in, and expenditures for enhancements include the growth, moves, and changes for our member agency PSAPs. Our budget in the most simplest of terms. We anticipate service fee revenues of approximately $14.4 million. We will be drawing from our equipment reserve fund approximately $8.4 million for total expenditures of $22.8 million. I project at 9/30/15 that we will still have approximately $15.3 million remaining in our equipment reserve fund. I have provided you a complete budget packet for your review. This packet contains specific information about our revenues and expenditures. It also contains a 5-year forecast and an audited balance sheet for fiscal year ending September 30, 2014. While it's very difficult or even impossible to project future costs, you've heard me say many times that I feel confident we will have enough reserves to meet our next generation upgrade demands. As I said many times, we have to be able to plan today to implement technology tomorrow that hasn't even been thought of yet. Who would have thought 20 years ago that we'd all have 2 or 3 cell phones we carry around every day? I wish I had dreamed that. I probably would be the president of AT&T or something at that point.
You wouldn't be here in front of us.
But I certainly, in 1988, we made the decision when I was in Amarillo that we would support these newfangled things called car phones. And we brought that technology all across Texas after we developed that in Amarillo. And today, to have 85 or even close to 90% in some jurisdictions, wireless calls just amazes me. And I digress, I apologize. Well, I have the podium this morning. I thought I would talk just a little bit more about text to 911 as we talked last year. Not much has changed since I briefed you last year. However, I would like to report that Mr. Brunson, your representative to the board, did have an opportunity last week to visit with several congressional offices and representatives to convey the message from our stakeholders. They are very concerned about the additional cost and personnel that may be needed to process these requests for service, or the new text to 911 calls as they are referred to. I repeat that, like I did last year, that service is currently not available in Tarrant County. Remember that the footprint is all of Tarrant County and portions of 6 other counties. Staff and the board are cautiously and continually reviewing options. Some of the concerns that have been expressed by our stakeholders is an unknown volume or duration of calls, in parentheses, unknown cost to both the district and the entities, unknown staffing needs and skills, and no national plan for direction or funding. And I forgot to go through those, but you have those. I apologize again. Judge Whitley, again, if I may continue, I'm sorry. Staff continues to work with our vendors to be sure we're ready when the time does come. Staff will identify metro areas with service. We're watching Houston very closely. They are implementing as we speak, and we'll bring you back a report when the time is right. Once we do, there will be a district-wide meeting of all of our public safety answering point managers and the public to address their concerns and develop a path forward. I repeat, the service is not currently available within the footprint of the Tarrant County District. Any call attempted will receive a bounce-back message that indicates that the service is not available. Judge, now, I'll be happy to answer any questions you and the commissioners may have, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Any questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll
Thank
be,
you. We appreciate everything you do.
We'll be back next week for approval. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Members of the court, we can go to item B. This is the hospital district's fiscal year 2016 proposed budget presentation. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Manius. Judge and court members, I have with us a great board, and we work with a great board all the time, and our board members are here. We have our chair, Ralph Emerson. We have our vice chair, Charlie Powell. We have our finance chair, Steve Montgomery, and we have our secretary, Chuck Weber, Dr. Chuck Weber. And I gain wisdom from them all the time. And right before I got up here, Mr. Montgomery, who provides me great counsel, whispered to me and said, just don't embarrass us. So I will try to take their lead and do my best not to do that. I also want to thank you as court members for the individual meetings that you all had with our chief financial officer and with Bill Whitman and myself. I appreciate that. I appreciate the time. Commissioner Brooks, in your case, I want to personally thank Kathy and her commitment to getting the questions and the answers for the budget, and I appreciate that. In your absence, Kathy and your staff did a wonderful job, and I'm appreciative of that. So what I would like to do is also, I'd like to thank G.K. Manius for the help that he's provided and the amount of time that we spent in his office. And I do want to remind the public of the camaraderie that we share with county and county offices, and Ron Wright in particular. This is the second year that Mr. Wright and his office have not charged us for tax collection, and that means a lot to us. We don't take that for granted, and we're very thankful, and that cooperative spirit means a lot, and it also means money that goes back to our patients, and I thank you for that. I'm going to now have Sharon Clark come up, and Sharon is our Chief Financial Officer. I think Sharon has done an excellent job in the time she's been at JPS. I'll remind you, she's been at JPS for 3 months. In JPS years, that's 12 years, but in actual time, it's 3 months. But she's doing a good job, and I'm very appreciative of her. Sharon?
Again, trying not to embarrass myself. Good morning.
Good morning. I like
thank-
those colors. I mean, you've got purple and you've got UNT. I mean, it's just.
You know, I'm trying to go Fort Worth this morning for you guys, so.
That works
All
well.
right.
Where's Jensen? Yeah, there's Jensen over there. I mean, you know, he's got his green tie.
You know,
on, so-
he's already noticed my colors, so great. I've got a few slides for you this morning. Again, I appreciate the time that you gave us prior to this meeting. So if you have any questions as I go through this, please feel free to stop and ask them. Just from a high level, again, our new initiatives for this year, the first two are really related to the top side of our income statement and improving the collections from our commercial payers, Medicare, and Medicaid. We expect that that's going to produce about $3 million worth of additional collections. The next three are, or actually four, are related to new services and expansion of current services. Community health is actually self-funding. We are hoping to expand hours to 8 p.m. in all of our clinics and adding new providers. We continue to achieve accreditation in our stroke program with weekend coverage. The True Worth Clinic that focuses on our homeless population in the Lancaster area will be opening. The East Pavilion expansion that we constructed this year will be opening in mid-September. The Acclaim, all of the activity related to Acclaim. And for clarification, I wanted to spend just a minute on this. And the meeting that we had with Commissioner Wynn yesterday, I wanted to clarify some confusion that may exist. This is not just the Acclaim Corporation costs. A lot of these costs, the majority of these costs, are related to the acquisition of some of the clinics that currently belong to UNT that will be bringing on to JPS. They're not physician-related expenses, it's clinic-related expenses, and most of that is IT. So again, this is a placeholder in our budget.
So you're saying then, like the stroke program weekend coverage, that's going to cost us an additional $130,000?
It is. It produces some additional revenue, but there's also an addition of about 2 FTEs that you'll see later in the presentation.
And then
But
hopefully both of the clinic and the that True Worth clinic, we've got an increase in expense, but again, hopefully that would keep folks from the emergency room or just coming into the emergency room.
Exactly.
Don't touch it. Leave it alone.
Thank you. And the last item is just a notation for our Northeast Clinic. We do have $10 million of capital that will not be operational this year, but we have budgeted to go ahead and start construction on that community health clinic.
Okay, what I was told in our meeting was that there will be a number of UNT clinics, and we will go through those clinics, and the ones that are considered viable, we will fold them into the JPS footprint, right?
Correct.
And that's what the $4 million is for, basically.
A portion of the $4 million. Probably, in my estimation, after our meetings, probably about 2/3 of that $4 million is clinic-related. Again, most of that IT.
Okay.
The other portion is the startup expenses and salaries of bringing the physicians from UNT and the JPS PG group together.
Okay.
Any other questions on our initiatives? Okay. Some key operational statistics. JPS services a large population. We do not project a lot of change this year. We have over 25,000 inpatients, just under 5,000 births each year. We expect to have 13,600 surgical cases, and our outpatient clinics touch over 1.2 million patients. Our operating revenues come from 3 major sources. About 1/3 of those come from our patient collections, again, the commercial, Medicare, Medicaid, our ad valorem revenue, and the other portion comes from our disproportionate share revenue, the 1115 waiver, which is comprised of both DSRIP and uncompensated care, And we do have other revenues such as grants, the tobacco revenue, and other funding. That's projected to increase slightly by 3.1%. Labor costs in a hospital are our largest cost. This comprises almost half, or about 49%, of our operating expenses. Most of our increase this year, almost half of it, is our annual merit. We're projecting 3%. We also have expansion of new staff, which I have an additional slide on. These are those expansion of services that I've already covered, as well as increase in patient safety standards. And our cost of benefits is remaining constant. We've tried to relate our new FTEs back to our destination metrics. And these destination metrics are pretty clear. They're related to quality, patient satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and you can read those along the top. We've also focused on geriatrics, as well as stewardship. We are adding just over 100 FTEs. And as a reminder, JPS employs almost 6,000 people. Our non-labor operating expenses, just to hit the high points, professional fees are related mainly to physician payments for the connection population that we have. Purchase service, we are looking at optimization of some of our IT software that will produce some efficiencies in the future years, as well as focuses on quality and registries. Medical supplies and pharmacies are another very large expense for us. We're expanding some of our infusion services, which are extremely high-cost drugs. We're also projecting about an 8% increase in pharmaceuticals. And then other expenses did increase. We have a proposed capitalization policy change. When I came 3 months ago, we're capitalizing everything over $1,000. The Medicare limit is $5,000. So we are proposing that change. So I budgeted for it that way. Our board of managers will be voting on that this month.
So you're going to be capitalizing everything from 1,000 to 5,000 now, where in the past, you're going to be expensing it versus capitalizing it.
Correct. Correct. There's just a lot of intrinsic expense of tagging things, depreciating them, and just as a note, I know it's of interest to you guys. As you know, JPS does fund the public health. Those expenses went up slightly, but JPS does fund about 17% of that budget. So from a hospital income statement, we did budget a 2% net income of $17.9 million. And not to forget that we also have a physician group and a foundation. So when you look at that combined, it's $17.3 million. I did also want to mention while I was here, because of some of the unknowns that we have right now, we're in the middle of trying to strategize and work out some of the details with the Acclaim budget, as well as what clinics that we are going to transition over to JPS and how those physician contracts are actually going to be working. I will likely be bringing a budget revision back in November and December that will show some movement. We will be incorporating those clinics back into the hospital budget. We will also be moving the JPSPG budget into a new corporate entity called a claim. And we will also be accounting for some new expenses from the UNT side for professional contracts. I don't expect the bottom line to change significantly. And when I do that, we'll also be making sure that there are no more current legislative updates that would make any significant changes to my budget. You know, healthcare is capital intensive. My goal this year was to fund our depreciation. So our capital budget was set at $39.1 million. We also have some construction capital that is in process from prior year. So we expect about 9.7 of that to continue on. So our total spend is going to be about $48.8 million this year. And the ad valorem tax, yes.
Is the 9.7, is that on the Northeast Clinic?
Actually, the Northeast Clinic is going to be up in that top line item. It's $10 million out of the 17.1. Part of the 9.7 is going to be things like the expansion of the current projects that were approved in the 15 budget that are just still in process that we are finishing up. So that 9.7 was part of prior year's capital budget, but I just wanted to, in full disclosure, show you what cash would be going out for 16.
The 17.1, what is the plan for that?
There are quite a few projects for the 17.1. The largest part of that, again, is the $10 million for the Northeast Clinic construction. And there's probably close to 20, 25 others. It includes renovation of certain areas of the main hospital. I think one of the other largest projects is a pharmacy renovation within the main medical center.
Okay. And the 22 is basically to maintain and upkeep the existing buildings?
Yes, most of the maintenance capital is actually related to patient care equipment.
Okay.
So MRIs, CTs are some of our bigger ticket items. Lab and radiology are also some very high dollar departments.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on capital? I had the opportunity to sit through a meeting last month where it appeared that you guys have preliminarily seen our ad valorem tax rate. We are not proposing a change this year, so I've included this slide once again for your reference, which the 16 baseline would be the 0.227897. And this is from the certified tax rolls. Are there any questions that I could answer? Any comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would add that the work that Sharon did is greatly appreciated, but I'd also like to point out our board, through what they do throughout the year, the budget retreat, the time they spent, the finance committee spends a great deal of time on this, and I'm greatly appreciative of them and Bill Whitman and the others at JPS. I work with a good group of folks, and I appreciate the board because a lot of time goes into this. You see the segment here, but a lot went into the 6-7 months prior to this, so thank
And
you.
the other thing that we don't see sometimes, and I'm not sure we understand, or that the community understands, because of your work and because of what you do in the community, you transfer money to the federal government, and which then comes back twofold, 2 times, sometimes 2.5 times, which comes back to the other private and not-for-profit hospitals in this community. So that may account for over $100 million that comes back to this area and is then distributed to the THRs, the Baylors, the HCAs, the Methodists, that if it weren't for you transferring that money up, that money would not be available for them to provide care that they provide as a result of folks walking in their emergency room or doing other programs. So oftentimes we forget about that.
And I appreciate that, and we do, and we play that role, and we proudly play it. And also the role that we play is the anchor for the 1115 waiver, and we're appreciative to help commandeer that in any way that we can. So
I would like, Sharon, if you wouldn't mind preparing a little schedule that just says, here's the kind of money, here's what we do, here's what it benefits, or how it benefits the community and the other hospitals in the community.
Right. Thank you all very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Members of the court, just as a timeline, you're going to see this budget again for your approval on September 15th when you also approve the tax rate. Members of the court, if we can now go to item number C. This is a continuation of the county's FY16 budget issues. We will start by having we're not going to cover everything that needs to be covered yet on budget, but we're going to start with some HR related issues.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rex, Charlie, thank also all the other board members right there. Thank you for everything y'all do. We know y'all spend a great deal of time. I see Bill looking back in here, but we appreciate all your board members. Even Montgomery. Ralph, thank you for everything y'all do.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Rex, thank you. Go.
I'm going. Good morning. We have a little handout for you there of all the FY16 issues that either are included in the budget, that's where I'll start, or need to be determined yet, just based on some feedback from various groups, yourselves included. So the first couple items are items that are already included in the budget. That would be the merit pay, 3%, the unclassified and project employee increases, which are also 3%, and then the structures that you see below with a couple of exceptions we'll talk about that need to be decided yet. This does include the extra increase for the law enforcement group that was proposed by them, and you see those amounts under the LE structures below. The 2 structure items below that, the craft and IT structures, are issues that need to be determined yet. These were questions that court members brought up. The first one, craft, the scales for craft are a little bit below P25 currently. So what we're looking to do in order to fix that, in order to also help with recruitment for those positions, is to increase what's recommended by Hay. You see it towards the right-hand side, the craft structures below, and you see what Hay recommended, and then you also see an alternate, which is what we're looking at right now. That essentially takes Hay's proposal and increases it by 1% for each of those grades. The cost of that, the additional 1%, is approximately $17,000 with fringes. The other alternate that you see below that would be for the IT structures. Their situation is a little bit different in that their structures are really at P25 already. Their salaries are not. Their salaries are well below P25, but that is, I think, because of turnover and new employees in that department. However, they are experiencing recruiting difficulties. You'll find a couple positions currently that are open over 100 days, and then a couple that have been open over 200 days. So we're looking to alleviate that also. You see the proposal there, instead of what Hay recommended, moving those structures by 3%. The additional cost of that would be about $34,000. The final issue there is not a structure issue. This was a request by the law enforcement group for an increase in FTO pay. We currently pay 57 cents per hour, and they have requested that that move to $1 per hour.
Any questions or any action that you want to take at this time?
Do we have a cost on the field training officer?
We do. The 2014 cost, if we had changed it from 57 cents to $1 per hour, would have cost about $30,000 more.
Well, I'll move for the approval of the adjustment recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
2 seconds.
2 seconds. We have everybody's just feeling the love today. And if I understand what the motion says is that we're going to approve the alternates for the craft, the alternates for the IT, and the proposed increase for the field training officers from 57 per hour to $1 per hour. The other items that are shown here are already included in the budget, and that would be the recommendation.
That's correct.
So all those, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we move closer to September 15th, we'll be bringing additional budget-related issues to you for your action, for inclusion into the budget. With that, Your Honor, that's all we have this morning.
Then we will recess our open meeting and proceed to close to discuss items exempted under Section 551. Big thing to show for what we've been in there for. Having returned from our closed session and there being no business to conduct at this time, we are adjourned in memory of Zeke Wallman.